Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Topical Economics. Today we will be looking at the topic poverty. This has been a part of Cambridge IGCSE Economics curriculum, paper code 0455. We will be looking at some multiple choice questions which have been asked in past papers. I will be breaking down these multiple choice questions, guiding you through the process of choosing the correct answer, why the other options are not correct, and highlighting key strategies and tactics for handling these questions effectively. So whether you're preparing for exams or just looking for understanding your concepts, you will find this video valuable. Starting with our first question, this is from May-June paper 2022 version 2. A government wants to reduce both its budget deficit and the amount of poverty in its country. Which fiscal policy measure is most likely to achieve both of these aims? And they have given us options. So let us analyze options and see which fits to this answer. So first option, decreasing the rate of progressive income tax. Now this would lower tax revenue, making it harder for the government to reduce the budget deficit, and potentially it would increase poverty as there would be less funding for welfare. So this option is incorrect for this question. Coming to option B, decreasing government spending on welfare benefits. Now cutting welfare benefits would directly harm those in poverty, thereby worsening their situation and not effectively addressing their deficit. So again, this looks incorrect. Coming to option C, increasing the rate of progressive income tax. Now this looks correct because increasing the rate of progressive income tax means that higher earners pay larger percentage of their income in taxes. So this can generate additional revenue for the government, which can be used to fund welfare programs. So this approach helps reduce poverty while simultaneously addressing the budget deficit through increased tax revenue. So this option C looks correct. However, yet let us look at option D also. Option D is increasing government spending on welfare benefits. Now while this could help alleviate poverty, it would require more government spending without a corresponding increase in revenue, thereby likely increasing the budget deficit. So the correct answer for the options that have been given is option C. Moving on with second question. This is from 2022 Feb-March paper version 2. A newspaper article on poverty in country X included the following statements. The poverty line is living less than $2 a day. And the second statement is those on average income consume 5 times more calories per day than those on the lowest incomes. Which type of poverty is described in each of these statements? And so they have given us 4 options. Now, when we look at absolute poverty and relative poverty, let's analyze each option, what they have given. When we look at option A, both statements here cannot be absolute because statement 2 is dealing with comparison and inequality. So option A is not correct. Coming to option B. Option B is, okay, so first statement refers to absolute poverty because it defines a clear fixed economic threshold for survival, that is less than $2 a day. It illustrates a lack of basic needs. So this is correct, that statement 1 refers to absolute poverty. Statement 2 highlights relative poverty as it compares the consumption levels of different income groups, illustrating inequality in access to resources rather than basic deprivation. So again, this is also correct. So this option looks correct. However, let us also see option C and D. Now option C, they have said relative and absolute. This misclassifies statement 1 as relative, ignoring the fixed nature of poverty line defined in absolute terms. So this option is incorrect. And lastly, coming to option D, now both relative. So this fails to recognize that statement 1 is about a fixed threshold necessary for survival. So that makes statement 1 absolute. So the correct answer for this question is option B, absolute and relative. Moving on with the third question. This is again from Feb-March paper 2022, version 2. What will reduce income inequality? Options are given. So let us analyze. Option A is increased indirect taxation. Now this type of tax, for example like sales tax, is generally regressive, affecting lower income individuals disproportionately without addressing wealth distribution. So this option is incorrect. Option B, increased progressive taxation. Now increased progressive taxation means higher tax rates for higher income earners, thereby redistributing wealth from rich to poor. So this approach directly reduces income inequality by taking a larger share of income from those who can afford it and potentially funding social programs that benefit lower income individuals. So this option is correct. Yet let us also evaluate option C and D. Option C is increased regressive taxation. Now this would worsen income inequality because it places a heavier burden on lower income earners as they pay a larger percentage of their income compared to wealthier individuals. So this looks incorrect. Lastly, option D, increased tax-free allowances. Now while it may help lower income earners by providing some relief, it does not effectively address the disparity between high and low income earners, thereby failing to reduce the overall income inequality. So the correct answer for this question is option B. Coming to our fourth question, this is from October-November paper 2021, version 3. What could reduce poverty? And the options are given as below. Now option A is greater economic growth. Now greater economic growth typically leads to more job creation and higher income levels across society. As the economy expands, it can lift many people out of poverty by increasing employment opportunities and wages. This option is correct. But yet let us evaluate the other options also that are given. Option B is less spending on education. Reducing spending on education can perpetuate cycles of poverty by limiting access to the quality of education, which is crucial for improving job prospects and economic mobility. This is incorrect. Option C, more regressive taxation. This would disproportionately affect low-income households as they would pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes, thereby exacerbating poverty rather than reducing it. So again, this is incorrect. And looking at last option D, privatization of hospitals. Now this would lead to increased in healthcare costs and reduced access for low-income individuals, potentially worsening their financial situation and overall poverty levels. So this is also incorrect. So the correct option out of all that are given is option A for this question. Coming to the fifth question. This is from October-November paper 2021, version 2. Poverty in households may be defined in relative terms. What indicates relative poverty? The options are given. Now option A, falling below society's expected standard of living. So what is relative poverty? Relative poverty is defined in comparison to the broader society, meaning that individuals or households are considered to be in relative poverty if they fall below the societal standard of living, which can vary based on the context and location. So this option A looks correct. Let us also evaluate the other options. Option B is income level required to meet basic needs. Now this describes absolute poverty, which focuses on the minimum income needed for survival rather than a comparative measure. So this is incorrect. Option C, lack of access to clean water. Now while serious, this is more indicative of a specific condition of poverty rather than a measure of relative poverty. So again, this is incorrect. And option D, living on less than $2 a day. This is also it's defining absolute poverty, indicating a fixed poverty line rather than a relative measure of living standards. So the correct option for this question is option A. Coming to question number 6, this is from October-November paper 2021, version 1. What is a certain cause of absolute poverty? And the options are given. Option A is growing old. Now, aging itself does not cause poverty. It may contribute to poverty if income sources diminish, but it is not a direct cause. So this is incorrect. Option B, insufficient income for basic needs. Now, this looks like it is correct. Absolute poverty is primarily defined by the inability to meet basic needs such as food, shelter, and clothing. So, insufficient income directly results in the inability to fulfill these essential requirements. So, this is correct. Let us still evaluate C and D also. Option C is lack of good health care. So while it can exacerbate poverty, it does not directly cause it. People can be poor without having inadequate health care. So this is incorrect. Option D, many dependents in the family. Now having dependents can strain finances but does not inherently cause absolute poverty. It is the lack of income that leads to poverty regardless of the family size. The correct option for this question is option B. Coming to question number 7, this is from October-November paper 2021, version 1. Which government policies will both reduce the difference in income between low-paid and high-paid workers? And the options are given. So let us look at option A, a decrease in the maximum wage and a more regressive income tax system. Now, decreasing the maximum wage does not effectively address income inequality, and a regressive tax system would worsen income disparities. So, option A is incorrect. Option B, a decrease in the maximum wage and reduction in trade union power. Now, this option could lead to greater income inequality, as reducing union power may weaken wage negotiations for low-paid workers. So this is also incorrect for the question that they have asked. Option C, an increase in the minimum wage and a more progressive income tax system. Now, increasing the minimum wage helps raise the income of low-paid workers, while a more progressive income tax system, that is higher taxes on higher income, helps redistribute income, thereby narrowing the gap between low and high earners. So this option is correct. Yet, let us look at option D also. Option D is an increase in the minimum wage and a more regressive income tax system. So, while raising the minimum wage helps low-paid workers, a regressive tax system would take more from those lower on the income scale, which would worsen income inequality. So, the correct answer for this question is option C. Coming to question number 8, this is from May-June 2021 paper version 1. The richest 60% of the population of a high-income economy received an increase in income. The income of the rest of the population did not change. What happened to absolute and relative poverty? And they have given us options. So here, let us look at option A. Option A is saying that absolute poverty increased, relative poverty decreased. Now this is incorrect because absolute poverty did not increase, it remained constant. Coming to option B, absolute poverty increased, relative poverty remained constant. Again, this is incorrect because absolute poverty did not increase and only relative poverty changed. Option C, absolute poverty remained constant, relative poverty increased. This is correct. Here, let us understand absolute poverty refers to a fixed level of income that is necessary to meet basic survival needs. Since the income of the poorest individuals did not change, absolute poverty remains constant. Coming to relative poverty, this measures income in relation to others within the society. As the 60% richest saw an increase in income, the gap between them and the rest of the population widened. This means relative poverty increased because more individuals fall further behind in comparison to the wealthier group. So this option C is correct. Again, option D is incorrect because absolute poverty remained constant but relative poverty increased. So the correct answer for this question is option C. Moving on with the 9th question. This is again from May-June paper 2021 version 2. A country is experiencing unemployment. It has a progressive income tax policy and benefits for the poor. The government aims to increase employment and reduce inequality. Which fiscal policy measures are most likely to achieve these aims? They are given in terms of income tax and benefits of the poor. Looking at these options, option C looks correct. That is, decrease the lowest tax rate and increase the benefits to the poor. So answer for this is option C. Coming to the 10th question, this is from 2021 Feb March paper version 2. Which statement about poverty is correct? Let us look at first option. The option A says absolute poverty occurs when income falls below what is needed for survival. Now this is the correct answer. So this statement accurately defines absolute poverty, which is a condition where individuals do not have enough income to meet basic survival needs such as food, shelter and clothing. But still, let us look at the other options also. Option B, an advanced economy is likely to have a higher level of absolute poverty than relative poverty. Now, this is incorrect because an advanced economy typically has lower levels of absolute poverty compared to your relative poverty, because it usually has more resources to support those in need. So this is incorrect. Option C, again, it is possible for relative poverty to increase even if absolute poverty decreases. For instance, if incomes of higher earners rise significantly while the incomes of lower earners remain the same, then relative poverty can increase. So again, this is incorrect. And option D, again, this is incorrect. Relative poverty varies by country and is context dependent. It is not measured by the same standards of goods and services everywhere. So the correct answer for this question is option A. Moving on with 11th question. This is from 2020 October-November paper version 2. In countries with absolute poverty, low incomes can start a process that keeps incomes low. What are the stages of this process? So let us analyze and look at the options together. Option A. So while it starts correctly with low incomes leading to low consumption, the link to low prices and low output is less direct. Low prices can sometimes result from overproduction or lack of demand, but they do not clearly connect to maintaining low incomes in the same way as the other option, which is the correct answer, which we will look in some time. So option A is incorrect. Option B. So this option suggests that low incomes lead to low government spending, but this is not a direct correlation. High taxation generally results from higher income brackets, which does not clearly illustrate the cycle of maintaining low incomes. So that is why this option is also incorrect. Option C, if you look at this option, it is flawed because low investment does not necessarily lead to high profits. If there is low investment, companies may not generate high profits, and thus low dividends would not contribute to the cycle of low incomes in a meaningful way. Lastly, looking at option D, this option correctly outlines a cycle where low incomes lead to low savings. With less saving, there is less money available for investment. Low investment then results in low productivity, which in turn maintains the cycle of low incomes. So this cycle effectively illustrates how absolute poverty can perpetuate itself. So this is the correct option. The correct option is option D for this question. Coming to question number 12. A low-income country experiences extreme poverty in its rural areas. What is a possible cause of this? This is again from 2020 October-November paper version 1. So let us look at the options and analyze. Here they have said option A, development of better irrigation techniques. Now while better irrigation can improve agricultural productivity, it is not a cause of extreme poverty. In fact, it could help alleviate poverty by increasing crop yields. This option is incorrect. Option B, distribution of international food aid. Now, while food aid is often a responsive to poverty, it is not a cause of poverty. Instead, it helps address existing food insecurity rather than creating poverty conditions. So again, this option B is also incorrect. Option C, high trade barriers imposed by high-income countries. This looks correct. Still, let us also look at option D, high prices for agricultural produce. So higher prices might benefit farmers if they can sell their products at a profit. However, in extreme poverty contexts, farmers often lack the means to produce enough to benefit from higher prices. So again, this option is misleading. So the correct answer for this question is option C. Because high trade barriers can restrict the access to markets for low-income countries, thereby limiting their ability to export goods and generate income. So this can exacerbate poverty in rural areas where agriculture is often the primary source of income. So the answer is option C. Coming to our 13th question. This is from 2020 May-June paper version 1. An additional 700,000 UK children and pensioners fell into the relative poverty between 2013 and 2017. What might be the reason for this? Option A, direct taxes had increased and indirect taxes had fallen. So here, while changes in taxation can impact disposable income, this option does not directly explain the increase in relative poverty among specific vulnerable groups. This option is incorrect. Option B, real gross domestic product was rising faster than the population. Here, if GDP is rising faster than the population, it generally suggests improved economic conditions, which would typically reduce relative poverty rather than increasing it. So again, option B is incorrect. Option C, the death rate was exceeding the birth rate. Here, a higher death rate compared to birth rate does not directly relate to poverty levels among specific demographic groups like children and pensioners. So again, this is incorrect. Lastly, looking at option D, the real value of government welfare benefits had fallen. So here, a decline in the real value of welfare benefits means that the support provided does not keep pace with inflation or the cost of living, leading to more individuals falling into relative poverty, especially vulnerable groups like children and pensioners. So the correct answer for this question is option D. Coming to 14th question. This is from 2020 May-June paper version 2. Due to war, some people are remaining in absolute poverty. What is the main indicator of absolute poverty for these people? And the options are given. Now, looking at first option, option A, dependence on aid for medical treatment. So while dependence on aid may indicate a lack of resources, it does not specifically define absolute poverty, which focuses more on basic survival needs. So this option is incorrect. Option B, lack of transport to escape abroad. Now again, this option pertains more to the ability to flee dangerous situations than to the direct conditions of poverty, making it less relevant to absolute poverty. So again, this is incorrect. Option C, living in tents in temporary camps. So while living in temporary camps can increase instability, it does not directly indicate absolute poverty unless accompanied by insufficient food or other basic needs. Lastly, coming to option D, receiving insufficient food for basic nutrition. Now this option looks correct because absolute poverty is primarily defined by the inability to meet basic needs such as sufficient food, water and shelter. So insufficient food for basic nutrition is a direct indicator of absolute poverty. So the answer for this question is option D. Coming to question number 15. This is again from 2019 October-November paper, version 1. The table shows the percentage of share of GDP held by richest 20% and poorest 20% of the population in each country. Which country had the greatest extremes of income and poverty? They have given us 4 countries here: Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa. They've given us data of richest 20% and poorest 20%. Now when we look at option A, in Ghana, richest 20% is 41.7% and poorest 20% is 8.4%. So here there is disparity, but still it is less as compared to the other countries, which we will still be looking. So option A is incorrect. Option B, richest 20% for Nigeria is 55.7% and the poorest 20% is 4.4%. So here Nigeria shows significant inequality, but if you look at South Africa, option D, the gap is larger in terms of wealth of richest 20%. So that option D, South Africa, is indicating greater extremes. Still, let us look at option C also, Senegal. Again, your richest 20% is 48.2%, poorest 20% is 2.9%. So Senegal does show a wide gap, but it is not as pronounced as the disparity that is found in South Africa, where the richest control a larger share of GDP. So the correct option what we are looking for this question is option D, South Africa. So South Africa has the highest percentage for the richest, which is 64.8%, and a relatively low percentage for the poorest 20%, which is 6.4%, indicating significant income inequality and extremes of poverty. Coming to question number 16. This is from 2019 May-June paper, version 1. Which policy is most likely to reduce relative poverty? And they have given us the options. Now, first option is make income tax rates less progressive. Now, this would benefit higher income earners more and reduce the disposable income of low income households, thereby increasing relative poverty. So this option is incorrect. Option B, reduce benefit payments. Again, this would directly harm low income individuals who rely on benefits for essential living costs, thereby exacerbating relative poverty. So again, this is not the correct answer. Option C, reduce the minimum wage. Now, lowering the minimum wage would decrease earnings for low income workers, further widening the income gap and increasing relative poverty. So again, this is incorrect. Lastly, option D, reduce the rate of sales tax. This is a correct answer. Reducing the rate of sales tax can help lower the overall cost of goods and services for everyone, particularly benefiting low-income households. This can increase their disposable income, helping to alleviate relative poverty. So the correct option for this question is option D. Coming to question number 17. This is from 2018 October-November paper, version 3. What describes absolute and relative poverty? And they have given us options. Option A, absolute poverty when there are low birth rates, high death rates and high levels of migration. So when we look at this option, this does not define absolute poverty. It focuses on demographic factors rather than economic capability. So this option is incorrect. Option C, we'll come to option B in some time. When we look at option C, when everyone has an income below US $1.9 a day. Again, this specifically relates to extreme poverty, not the broader concept of absolute poverty, so it is incorrect. Option D, when necessities cannot be afforded. Here, while this relates to absolute poverty, it does not clarify the concept of relative poverty adequately. That is why this option is also incorrect. Coming to option B, that absolute poverty when a person does not have enough money for food, shelter and clothes. So this is absolutely correct, as we have discussed earlier also. And relative poverty when a person earns less than others in the same society. So again, this is also correct, highlighting inequality. So the correct answer for this is option B. Coming to question 18, this is from 2018 May-June paper version 2. Over 2/3 of the world's poorest people live in rural areas. They are mainly involved in subsistence agriculture. What explains why poverty remains at a high level for subsistence farming families? And the options are as given. Now, first option, a lack of finance to buy machinery to improve productivity. This is absolutely correct answer for this question. Subsistence farming families often lack the financial resources needed to invest in machinery and technology that could enhance their agricultural productivity, trapping them in a cycle of poverty. This is the correct answer, yet let us evaluate the other options also. Option B, low international prices for food due to overproduction. So subsistence farmers usually grow for personal consumption, so international prices have limited impact on the poverty level. So this is incorrect option for this question. Option C, the size of families is too small to work the land. Now generally larger families are more common in subsistence farming. Smaller family size is not typically a limiting factor of poverty. So this is again incorrect option. Option D, women are discouraged from doing agricultural work. So gender roles may play a part, but the primary issue remains the lack of financial resources for productivity improvements. So the correct answer for this question is option A. Coming to question 19, this is again from 2018 May-June paper version 1. Which characteristic will show that a country has significant absolute poverty? And the options are given. Now, looking at the first option, a majority of the population will have less than average income. This may indicate economic disparity, but does not necessarily equate to absolute poverty if incomes are still above the poverty line. So this option is incorrect. Option B, basic living needs are not being met. This is the clearest indicator of absolute poverty, as it directly assesses the inability to secure essentials for survival. This is correct answer. Option C, most people do not have mobile phones. The absence of mobile phones is not a direct measure of poverty. It does not reflect essential needs being unmet. So this is incorrect. Option D, there is a high number of people living in rural areas. So while rural populations may face higher poverty tax rates, mere population distribution does not specifically indicate significant absolute poverty. So the correct answer for this question is option B. Basic living needs are not being met. Coming to question 20, this is from 2017 May-June paper version 2. Which statement about the poorest families in developing economies is not likely to be correct? Not likely to be correct. Let us look at the options. Option A, the children will be expected to work to help provide income. Now this is common in low income families where children often contribute to household income. So this is incorrect. Option B, the family will find it easy to obtain loans to develop their farms. This is the correct answer because in developing economies, the poorest families often struggle to obtain loans due to lack of collateral, lack of credit history, or access to financial institutions. So this makes it unlikely that they will find it easy to secure a financing or any other financial help for their farm development. So this is the correct answer for this question. Yet let us look at C and D also. Option C, the family will have a low earning capacity. Now this statement is typically accurate as families in extreme poverty often lack the skills, education and resources to earn higher incomes. Lastly, option D, the family will suffer from malnutrition and lack of medical care. Now this is also likely to be true as poverty often correlates with inadequate access to nutrition and healthcare services. So the correct answer is option B. Coming to question 21, this is from 2016 October-November paper version 2. A government introduces state benefits for the unemployed and increases the top rate of income tax to pay for the benefits. What effect will these changes have on poverty and the tax system? So they have said poverty will increase or decrease and the tax system make it progressive, regressive. We have to answer. So first question, let us look at the options that they have given. The first option, increase poverty and make it more progressive. So this option contradicts the goal of providing benefits which aims to reduce poverty. So this is incorrect. Option B, increase poverty, make it more regressive. Now again this is incorrect because the challenges are designed to alleviate poverty, not increase it. So here this is also incorrect. Option C, reduce poverty, make it more progressive. Now this is correct because introducing state benefits for the unemployed is likely to reduce poverty by providing financial support. Increasing the top rate of income tax makes the tax system more progressive as higher earners contribute a larger percentage of their income. So this is correct answer. Whereas option D, reduce poverty, make it more regressive. So here again a regressive tax system would disproportionately burden low income individuals, which contradicts the intended progressive nature of the tax increase. The correct answer for this question is option C. Reduce poverty and make it more progressive for the tax. Coming to our last question for this video. This is from 2016 May-June paper version 2. Some people think that the debts and interest payments of the poorest countries in the world should be cancelled. What might be a disadvantage for the poorest countries if this were done? And the options are given. Looking at the first option, option A, international banks might be less willing to give loans to poor countries. This is absolutely correct because if debts are cancelled, lenders may perceive a higher risk associated with future loans, leading to a reduction in willingness to lend to those countries, potentially limiting their access to financing for development. So this option is absolutely correct. Yet let us evaluate the other options also. Option B, interest payments to lenders would fall. Now this is true but not a disadvantage for the countries. It is a benefit for debt cancellation. So this is incorrect option. Option C, the standard of living of people in poorest countries would fall. Now this is unlikely as cancelling debts could free up resources for development, potentially improving the living standards. So again, this is incorrect option. Option D, trade between the poorest countries and the rest of the world would increase. Now this is also unlikely to be directly affected by debt cancellation. In fact, reduced lending could limit opportunities for trade investment. So the correct answer for this question is option A. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of poverty through past papers, MCQ questions of IGCSE Economics curriculum. Here we have analyzed various aspects including the limitations of fiscal policies, the realities faced by the poorest families, and the effects of debt cancellation on developing economies. Understanding these concepts is crucial not just for your exams but also for grasping the broader economic challenges that our world faces today. Remember, each question helps build your critical thinking skills and deepens your comprehension of economic principles. If you found this video helpful, please like, share and subscribe, and do follow for more content. Thank you. Happy studying.